Welcome to EWTN News In Depth. I'm Catherine Hadro. In what was a bit of a split-screen scenario this week, Machado met separately with Pope Leo XIV and then with President Trump as she seeks support in her fight to lead her country after the American capture of Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro. Yet the pontiff and the president are suggesting two vastly different approaches to Venezuela's future. Mark Irons reports.
At an annual procession in Venezuela honoring the Virgin Mary this week, the people continue to reflect on their future. This woman says they are praying for peace.
We pray for our country because the country truly needs God, firstly.
The procession taking place around 200 miles west of Caracas, the capital where President Nicolás Maduro was removed from power after a U.S. raid earlier this month. Pope Leo XIV has said peace in Venezuela and sovereignty must now prevail.
I renew my appeal to respect the will of the Venezuelan people and to safeguard the human and civil rights of all, ensuring a future of stability and concord.
On Monday, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado met with the Pope at the Vatican, asking him to advocate for the release of political prisoners still held in Venezuela. Machado then visited President Trump at the White House on Thursday, giving him her Nobel Peace Prize. The Norwegian Nobel Institute said the prize cannot be transferred or shared. She also met with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Machado's political party is widely considered to have won the 2024 elections in Venezuela, but those results were rejected by then-President Maduro, who remained in power. We met Carlos Moya, a Venezuelan living outside Washington, D.C., who says the Venezuelan presidency rightfully belongs to Machado's party.
Maduro
has never been a legitimate president. Maduro is a dictator. He stole the elections.
Moya says he fled his home country 12 years ago.
Staying in Venezuela would have been a death sentence, or a sentence of political persecution in the dungeons and in those inhumane prisons.
He's outside the vacant former Venezuelan embassy building in Washington. In 2019, President Maduro announced he was cutting diplomatic ties with the U.S., but the Venezuelan opposition government, recognized by the U.S. at the time, occupied this space until it finally closed in 2023. The Venezuelan flag no longer flies here, and signs of the abrupt closure are still evident behind the locked doors. On the other side of the glass, you can even see a pile of old mail, which includes a dated edition of China Daily, a propaganda paper of the Chinese Communist Party. The future of U.S.-Venezuelan relations remains unclear. Venezuela hasn't had a normalized, functioning embassy here in Washington for years, but some exiles hope that this shuttered consulate will reopen in the near future. Moya is one of them. If presidential elections are held in Venezuela, he wants his vote to count.
We Venezuelans who are here and reside in the United States of America cannot vote, so the opening of the embassy and consulates would be a mechanism for us to exercise our right to vote here in the United States.
This week, U.S. forces seized another oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea, aiming to control the flow of oil coming to and from Venezuela. But what's next for the Venezuelan government is unknown, including when elections might occur. So far, President Trump has questioned Machado's ability to run the country, instead signaling his administration's willingness to work with Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, who was the vice president under Maduro. Jorge Galicia, a Venezuelan who protested the Maduro regime for years before fleeing to the U.S. in 2018, says he supports Machado, but believes the Trump administration endorsement of Rodriguez might be a pragmatic move to ensure some level of temporary stability in Venezuela before a transition of power.
I don't necessarily like it. I hope it comes to an end as soon as possible, but at the same time, I understand the reasoning behind it. You need someone who can have control of the armed forces within Venezuela.
Galicia says he was happy with Maduro's removal.
I've been praying to God for such a long time to see some sort of justice and to also have the possibility to safely return to my country.
Still in touch with friends and family back home, he described Venezuelans as silently optimistic about their future without Maduro. But at the same time, people aren't openly celebrating his ouster out of fear of retribution.
A lot of people are still living in fear You people go outside their houses, they're not talking about what happened, they're just pretending it never happened.
Archbishop Jesus González de Zarate is president of the Venezuelan Bishops' Conference. He spoke to us from his office in Caracas. He says the bishops are following events closely, but what happens next in Venezuela remains uncertain, so they are exercising a certain degree of caution as they continue ministering to the people.
It is up to us to provide pastoral accompaniment, encouraging the people to keep hope alive and to continue presenting the great principles of the Church's social doctrine.
The Archbishop says daily life for citizens and workers has gradually resumed since the U.S. raid, but people have many questions and concerns. And he pointed to the recent words of Pope Leo, who prioritized the good of the Venezuelan people first and foremost.
Recognition of sovereignty, of international law, of the self-determination of peoples, of the search for paths of understanding and progress. This is the aspiration of the Venezuelan people.
For 25 years, he says relations between the Catholic Church and state institutions have not been easy, and the Church has been marked by the difficulties inherent in life in Venezuela, by a general impoverishment not only of individuals but also of the Church as an institution. However, there have been signs of hope. He mentioned the recent canonizations in Rome last October of the first Venezuelan saints, and says the general public has found inspiration in them.
They have seen in these Venezuelans, in their way of living Christianity, in their virtues, an example of life. And it has truly been a moment of revival for all of us.
Mark Irons, EWTN News in Depth.